The Abraham Accord, announced by the United States President Donald Trump, establishing full diplomatic relationship between Israel and the United Arab Emirates and possibly by the Saudis in near future, is an important milestone in the intractable Middle East conflict. UAE becomes the third Arab country after Egypt and Jordan to make peace with Israel. Following an agreement on the Sinai Peninsula in 1979, Egypt had buried the hatchet with the Israelis, with the latter vacating all 18 settlements in the territory captured in the 1967 Six-Day War. Similarly, Jordan signed a peace deal in 1994 and established full diplomatic relations with Israel, which have matured despite the many ups and downs. Attempts of Gulf countries to admit to the reality of Israel go back to at least 2002, when the Arab Peace Initiative sought to recognize Israel in return of a freeze on any further expansion of the settlements, an ultimate return to the pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem as capital of Palestine. It would have effectively overturned the 1967 Khartoum resolution that prevented any Arab nation from recognizing or establishing diplomatic relations with Israel. Unfortunately, announcement Eve bombing by Hamas of a seaside hotel in Netanya, north of Tel Aviv, killing 30 Israelis in what came to be known as the Passover massacre, put paid to the efforts. A similar effort in 2005 was in fact thwarted again, this time with the then Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad calling for Israel to be wiped out of the face of earth, on the eve of a Gulf Cooperation Council meeting that was to take up the issue of recognition of Israel. The Saudis again got involved in 2007, brokering the short-lived Hamas-Fatah unity government through the Mecca Agreement, which floundered within 3 months owing to irreconcilable differences between the respective leaders of Hamas and Fatah. Led by the Saudi Arabia, most of the Arab world, including the UAE, Oman, Kuwait, Bahrain and Egypt, have been modernizing over the last decade, visibly distancing themselves from the radical strains of Islam associated with the organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood and the Islamic State. But only if things were that simple. Qatar has played the joker of the pack. Not only has it kept its links with Iran open, it has hosted Taliban's government in exile, and most importantly, from the Saudi perspective, cultivated ties with Erdogan. It did not help that Qatar-owned television network Al Jazeera played an activist role in the Arab Spring, not liked by the House of the Sauds. It is this layered complexity of the relationships within the Middle East that has unraveled with the signing of the Abraham Accord. Both Saudi and the UAE have realized the significance of moving fast to be ready for the post-oil economy. Indeed, as the recent crash of oil prices into negative territory amid the COVID pandemic shutdowns showed, the world could learn to live without oil sooner than expected. Both Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and UAE under Crown Princes Mohammed bin Salman and Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan respectively have been assiduously working to adjust their nations to that reality. Nahyan, who is one of the troika that helped shape the UAE-Israel deal, has led from the front in making the Emirates a mecca of post-industrial development, centered around trade and services industry. Backed by their oil wealth-nourished sovereign funds, the Arabs have been diversifying into global assets that has resulted in enmeshed business interests and symbiotic relationships with the West. UAE does not share borders with Israel, nor has gone to war with it ever. But for the Palestine question, peace became a natural corollary. Not that Palestine has been left high and dry, just that Arabs increasingly realize their forward planning cannot be held hostage to the unyielding emotions of Hamas. Recently, Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan was all praise for the Turkish drama series Ertugrul, showcasing it as the epitome of Islamic achievement that should inspire youngsters in Pakistan. A reimagination of the battles of early Ottomans in overthrowing the Byzantines through the life of founder of the Ottoman Empire, Osman's father, Ertugrul Gazi. The series is the Turkish version of India's Bahubali in some ways in grandeur and scale of production, with the religious idiom yoking worldwide Muslim audiences to the drama. Except for Saudi Arabia, that is. The nation that is the custodian of the two holiest of Islamic mosques in Mecca and Medina has not only banned Ertugrul but announced a counter-series, Malik-e-Nar, that seeks to retrieve Arab pride from what it sees as a clear push for Turkish imperialism in the garb of Islam. Ertugrul might be historical fantasy, but a real battle has been playing out in the Ummah, with Turkey's strongman Recep Tayyip Erdogan attempting to claim the space till now occupied by the House of Sauds, which is not only being strongly contested, but repulsed as well. Last year, along with Turkey, Pakistan had planned a Muslim Nations Conference in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. That was an attempt to appropriate leadership of the Islamic world away from the Arabs. Erdogan was the inspiration behind the move, and both Riyadh and Abu Dhabi read the riot act to Pakistan, which immediately withdrew. A few days back, Pakistan Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi threatened to split the Organization of Islamic Cooperation as the Saudiya did not acquiesce to a Pakistani request for a Kashmir-focused conference. Furious Riyadh hit back by withdrawing soft loans that were granted to keep the Pakistani economy afloat last year, and threatened repatriation of Pakistani labour force. Rushing of Chief of Army Staff General Qamar Javed Bajwa has not helped. In a royal snub, Bajwa was refused an audience with the Crown Prince, and the decisions on loans have not been taken back. The Game of Thrones in the Islamic world is fully on.